Good morning, Suzuki Science, grade 12s. Here we are on week number 8. We are 8 weeks into the learning. We are 8 weeks. And that is after 3 weeks of a break. So that's 11 weeks since we last saw each other inside David Suzuki proper. And how does it feel? We're almost 3 months in. So I hope that you have been somewhat engaged in the learning process. I hope that at the end of all this that you can say you know more now than you knew then. I know that many of you have been selecting your programs and hitting yes, accept, select, and you have a future, you know what you're doing next year. And I know there's a lot of trepidation and a little cautious thinking about, are you going to be at school and not? And of course, your grade 12 year ending the way it has doesn't make a lot of us happy. So I'm going to jump into what our activity is for this week 8, and then I would encourage any of you, if you have any questions whatsoever about the learning, or if there's anything you'd like to talk about, you know where to find myself or Mr. Desange, and we're happy to talk about anything to do with the course and beyond. So in this particular lesson, when we get into the nervous system, there's a lot of content that we're taking out. And for me, out of all the things in the grade 12 unit, in the homeostasis unit, the nervous system is probably the part I enjoy the most. So there's so much to talk about. So you'll notice in the PowerPoint, I've given you a number of places where it'll say Google Meet. I'll give you an example. You'll see something that looks like this. I'll say Google Meet. And that means that there's a whole bunch of things I would have talked about over the week and a half of the nervous system or week of nervous system learning. And we would have done activities in the cafeteria and with decks of cards and whatever else that we just don't have the time for. But if you're interested in it, especially if you know a colleague in the class that is also interested, then just let us know and we will meet you at whatever time, and then we'll talk about it and have some fun and do some learning beyond what you see in these video lessons. Okay, so one second here. All right, so first thing is, on this week, in addition to our nervous system video lesson and learning, we also have our evaluation, one of the 2 evaluations for this that kind of end the course. This one is the druggy presentation, which we talked about in the first couple weeks of the course, actually. When you guys did Chem Sketch, you signed up for your drugs. And the other one will be the end of unit homeostasis cartoon feedback loop thingy. So in this one here, I call it the druggy presentation because really you're focusing on drugs and how the drugs affect homeostasis. You couldn't do this any earlier because most drugs affect neurotransmitters, which we've not talked about yet, in addition to hormones and homeostasis overall. The instructions have not changed, so the instructions are still the same as earlier. We did take out a couple of slides that just weren't really relevant for our online learning. You'll notice some of the slides are green. So what does that mean? Well, on Wednesday, by the end of the day, you are creating a flip grid like we did before with the town hall, and you're going to, hopefully in 3 minutes or less, you're going to present this information that's in green. The name of the chemical substance. You're going to tell us what effect it has on the body, homeostasis specifically, so use the right terminology, and a supported opinion. Should the drug be controlled? Should the government put restrictions on its use? Should it be uncontrolled and anyone can use it, go into a Shoppers Drug Mart and just buy it off the shelf? Or should it be completely restricted? Right? So what is your opinion? And you're going to put those things into the Flipgrid presentation. It's due by Wednesday. On Friday, the whole presentation that you're submitting, this thing here, whatever form that you decide to take, along with the debate. The debate times are not posted, however, we'll post them soon. I avoided posting up times just in case there were any students who decided not to do the debate. We need to know so we're not putting up someone against a ghost, because that would be sad for someone to prepare to debate against someone who did not show up. So these people debate partners are posted, so you'll see what drug you're doing and who you're debating against, right? And the instructions for the debate are on the instructions for the druggy presentation. So once you've done the flip grid, you're not going to get a chance to introduce yourself. You're going to go jump right into the debate. Why your drug is the most dangerous, the second person why theirs is the most dangerous, and then kind of the active listening part, you're going to say why yours is more dangerous than your partner's. That's why you're putting it up a day in advance, so everyone has an opportunity to look at your supported opinion and what you have to say, and then you can use that to help them, develop a little bit of their argument. Okay, so once again, if you are not going to be participating in the debate for whatever reason, then please let us know so that your colleagues, your friends, don't prepare and then you're not there. Okay? So we are now starting the nervous system. The nervous system is a fascinating area, and as I said before, this is one of the sections that we would have been outside the class pretty much every day doing something related to reaction time and to thinking and to illusions and whatnot. So a really good place for us to start this off is with perception. We all know the dress, right? What do you see? What color? Is it gold? Is it blue? Is it brown? What do you see? There is a neuroscientific, a neurobiological explanation for the reason why some people see a particular color and other people see a different color. And as we go through this unit, will you be able to explain the why of this? No, you won't. That's not going to happen. But you'll get a better understanding of sensation versus perception. And a lot of times when we interpret something and somebody else looks at the same thing and has a different interpretation, that deals with how our brain perceives the information. So you're going to learn about the difference between the stimulus coming in, how you sense it, and the perception of the stimulus. To start off this lesson, I'd like you to pause the video lesson here. I want you to stop. I don't want you to go on any further. As a matter of fact, I'm going to stop this. I'm going to start the next section after this. In the worksheet, you'll see that there's an anticipation guide. So I don't think we've used this in grade 12 bio before, but we use it in grade 11 and grade 10 all the time. And you might use it in your other classes. So it's typically a resource that gives you a preview. You're asked some questions, you're asked to write down true, false, do you agree or disagree? You do the resource, you read it, you watch it, and then you come back to the anticipation guide. So it's kind of like that. You don't need to do all these. I didn't color code them because I didn't want to limit you or frame it, but the dress is on here along with a neuroscience explanation of what's happening. But there's also this other one here called inattentional blindness, along with top versus bottom up, seeing voices, and attentional blink, and so on and so on. So I'm asking you, at the very minimum, click on the first one. And what is your reaction? What do you think is going on? What happened? Like, were you surprised or not surprised? Was this what you expected? And then once the lesson is done, you can come back and say, well, here's my reaction now. Do I know enough to have a different reaction? In many cases, you won't because, as I said, we're ripping out left, right, and center a whole bunch of really interesting information, especially around the brain and how it understands perception. Okay. If you find these interesting, then I encourage you to do as many or as few of these as you'd like, and then talk to your friends about your reactions, right? This is not meant to be all isolated at home. I'm just doing this by myself. Or maybe talk to your family. You got a younger brother, older brother, sister, parents, see what they think when they look at the same activity. Let them be a part of the lesson as well. Okay? So this is something I want you to do before you get into the lesson proper. When you do get into the lesson, as I scroll down here, you'll see there's just a lot of tables and words. I try to give you a worksheet that's really the review kind of blown up with some diagrams and a few links here and there. And in many cases, you're just filling in the information that's missing. It's meant to frame your understanding. The slideshow, I'll pull over here. The slideshow, I've done the purple, green business here, yellow, right? Green's the minimum. There's a lot of content. You can't really get away from it. The yellow, it's a little bit more elaboration, complete. The purple is really interesting. You'll see a bunch of these Google Meets all over the place, typically embedded in the purple. So if you find that interesting, then once again, send me a message, please. I want to talk about this stuff. This stuff's super fascinating. And there's some more green, yellow. So you're going to work through the worksheet, answer the table questions, diagrams to the best of your ability. At the very bottom here, there's an activity. It's called the virtual neuron. It is something I would do in class. If we were in class and we were doing this for a week and a half, we would do the virtual neuron activity. It would be one of those engages. I'd spend 15, 20 minutes of class time doing this, and then we would be done. I put the whole activity in here. If you want to spend 15, 20 minutes doing it, great. Some of you might not be as technologically savvy, and it might take you 5, 10, 50 minutes to get the technology to work. If that's going to happen to you, just forget it and move on, right? This is just something that instead of sleeping, you want to do bio, then you do that activity. And so don't feel pressure way down here at the end to do it. It's just an extra activity to give you a better understanding. All right, I'm going to end this here, and I'm going to start you're going to do these links. You're going to do the before, post lesson, reactions, and then we're going to get into the lesson proper.